Hello and welcome back, everyone. It's just another day in the life as a military wife, and we are back, like I promised, with Ashley Swoboda, and she is a military spouse and author who was on my panels these last 2 months, and we are talking with her about her new book, Holding On and Letting Go, A Life in Motion, which is her experience as a military spouse. And honestly, she has shared some parts of it with me, and it is captivating. So before I gush way too much about how amazing this book is, why don't we jump into this week's episode? As always, I am your host, Sam Wolf, and you're listening to Life of a Military Wife. Thank you so much, Lindsay, for joining me today. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to my audience?
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is a true delight to spend time with you and share a little bit about our journey. So my name is Lindsay Swoboda. I am a mother of two. I am a Marine Corps spouse. So hoorah and semper fi to all of those out there that share that super motivated branch with us. And my spouse is coming up on 21 years in the Marine Corps and will be retiring this coming September of 2025, which is just a lot to think about. As a professional, I have been a professional dancer for years, doing things with Carnival Cruise Lines, musical theater tracks. I taught for years and years at different performing arts academies. And then once we had our kids and I learned that it's very hard to get the babysitter for the after school dance hour position, which is like a 4:30 to 9 that I used to teach. And then also just really wanting that time with my own family. I have pivoted into editorial work for Legacy Magazine, as well as some independent contracts across the span of time, and become a writer myself. And I get to share with you this evening that I am now a published author, hooray, with Alvareza Publishing. And my book is called Holding On and Letting Go, A Life in Motion.
I love it. Okay, and you said you can share an excerpt from your book. So let's start with that.
I sure can. Yes. This chapter is called The Worry Box. And I was telling Sam before we started that an interesting part of our military journey, and my book is about our military journey. It's a memoir, and we lived OCONUS for almost 10 years. And we did 5 OCONUS PCSs, like back to back to back to back. So that is something people are like, wow, I don't know how you did that. And sometimes I don't really know how we did it either. Mere survival. And we just kind of got used to packing suitcases. So this chapter is called The Worry Box. And at this moment in time, we were stationed in Morocco, and my daughter was 2, and she kept waking up and crying after every nap, and asking me, like, is today the day we move? But like in 2-year-old speech, right? And everyone I was talking to was like, oh, she can't be, like, she's 2, she doesn't understand. But kids do. They feel transition is happening. And so that's where we're at, is in this chapter, kind of wondering, where are we going from here, right? And how do we make it through this? So at this moment, they're packing. And a friend is asking me how the packing is going. And then I tell her we have about 2 hours left. She sends a thumbs up and a smiley face. When she brings Evelyn, that's my daughter, home, the house will be empty, aside from our suitcases and the embassy furniture. Our 15 months here feel like the blink of an eye, the flicker of a hummingbird's wing. As we leave Morocco, I will look back on pictures of people and places and wonder if it really happened. This was the place I believed would never feel like home, but somewhere in the middle I changed. I realize every single place I have lived has looked me straight in the eye and demanded, will you be open here? Will you allow your heart to spill out and learn what you can from those you meet along the way? Can you accept that you will never be the same? Maybe this is what I get to teach Evelyn. Maybe this is what I still need to learn. Maybe it's okay to grieve, to let tears fall, to witness repair in relationships, to see the people I love move toward wholeness as I struggle for strength myself. The world is wide and wonderful, but I have to stay open to feel it, the good and the hard. I don't always get a choice in what each chapter delivers, but I have agency in how I choose to handle it.
That's awesome. Wow, Morocco. So
Yeah.
were you guys, you were in embassy position?
So Marines have to do what's called a B billet if they're enlisted, and there's like different. You can do like a schoolhouse. You can apply for embassy duty, and then I'm sure there's like a drill instructor, and there might be one more. But he applied for embassy duty. That's what he really wanted to do. We had been stationed in Korea prior to the embassy assignment, and we really enjoyed living overseas because I used to work for Carnival. I had traveled extensively in the world already and just really loved those experiences. So we were like, okay, sign us up. Let's see if we can like get this. It's a really intensive program that they do. And it's the only time I believe that an enlisted person gets to be like a detachment commander. And it's a whole list of things that they're doing. So he qualified, and the first country we got sent to was Morocco. So we were stationed in Rabat. And then after that, we went to Quito, Ecuador. So very far, very big jumps. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, our trajectory is we were in California first. And this is like from the start of our marriage. He was other places, but he was in for 5 years before we got married. And then California, Korea, when Yongsan was still like bigger. And then we went to Hawaii, which I know is America, but it's like America light. It's still considered an Oconus, place. And then
Yeah.
from Hawaii, we went to Morocco and then Ecuador. And then we ended up in Virginia. And then we have finished, I don't know if this is where we're going to stay, but we're currently in Texas. So just
Okay.
all over everywhere, and then traveled a lot from those countries. We always made a pact with our families to kind of say, like, you can come see us here, but we won't be coming back in between. Unless, like this is what we're going to do. While we're here, we're going to do all the things in this country that we can do.
That's so cool. Yeah, my husband was trying to get a army equivalent to that kind of a position,
Sure.
and he did not get picked up for it. We were really bummed because both of us speak Spanish, and we
Oh,
the army, if you get it, they try to pick ones where you already know the language. And so
mhm.
we would have ended up in a Spanish speaking country if we had been picked up. And I was so hoping for that, but it didn't pan out. So that's so cool. You guys got to do that. Like there's so much that we can experience in the military, and sometimes we can get in our own way. You were mentioning something. I really feel like in some ways our stories are have similar elements in it. When I met my husband, he was considering joining the Air Force. And he told me that when we started dating, we had known each other in junior high and lost contact. And I said, I'm not going to be a military spouse. I have family who've done that. I know what that is. Um, so if you want to keep this up, we'll just break up now. And he's like, okay, okay, okay. And he backed off. And then we got married, and he's like, no, I really still feel like I need to join the military. And I'm like, what?
Wait a minute.
Well, needless to say, we ended up joining the military. Best thing that ever happened for our marriage. So fabulous for our family. But was not on board originally. I was very much a not going to do it kind of person. But you were a dancer. So you talked about how when we were talking before, you did all this dancing stuff, and then you were able to kind of take that and bring that into your military life.
Yes, that was very unexpected. I mean, I really was like, oh, this will never work. I don't know, like if we can be together and I get to keep this career. But I had done a lot of performing contracts. I mean, the first one I had, I think I maybe was like 16. There was a pre-professional baseball stadium near us in town, and they had auditions for dugout dancers. And so that was my high school job. Like I auditioned and I got it, and I would come out and dance on top of the dugouts, like in between the innings. I mean, like a big stadium, you're on the Jumbotron and you're interacting with the audience, and just really loved it, loved getting to drive out and be part of that season and be part of the community that way. And then I went to college for musical theater and dance, bless my parents. Like being like, yeah, go for it. So I went to Western Kentucky University for that. But what I really loved about that program was we were like 45 minutes from Nashville. So all the big, like a lot of the big touring
Okay.
companies came through. That's how I booked the Carnival job. Like they came through for auditions. Disney would come through. Like you could drive and get yourself to a bigger lineup of things. But at the same point in time, that university at the time, the program, they made us do everything like costume design. We would go in and teach in the elementary schools because for some reason the state of Kentucky had like a dance requirement on their fifth grade test. Who knows? So we would come in and teach that part like the college students would with a performing show that we would like unpack all the van and set up our gear and perform for them and then teach this show at the end. And I never probably would have been as interested in teaching had it not had that element where it was kind of like, okay, you can be a performer, but also here's how performers like give back to the community and help create patrons of the arts. Like we don't want to have people just come enjoy a show. We want to like impact a heart that will continue to fill a seat and have like really see the value in performing arts, like live performing arts. There is something that's just like I'll geek out about it, like just different to see a real person putting on something for you as opposed to a screen. Um,
Yeah.
so I really, appreciated that. And then once Ryan and I did get married, I was coming straight off Carnival as a performer. I remember in my exit interview, they were like, "You'd be great on all these other ships. Like, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I got married before I got on the ship. Like 9 months ago, we got married and he went to Iraq and I came here."
We
Did
both
this
got
boat.
deployed and now
That's
we're
right.
gonna reintegrate.
Mine was way better, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know if he'd actually agree with that because I feel like, he's spoken a lot about how that like deployment gave him a lot of purpose and you're getting to do the thing you're trained for. So, anyway, once we moved to California, I was like very listless for a while and was pretty frustrated about just kind of like, do I go back to performing? Like he never told me I couldn't, but like, oh, I don't know what I want to do. And that's when I was like, well, I really did enjoy teaching. And on the ship, you like part of your secondary job is you teach like dance classes and dancers would like trade duties with each other. And I was always the one that was like, give me all your dance classes. Like, I love being up there with the microphone, like leading people through like the line dance or like the end of the ship party or whatever. Like, I love that sort of stuff. So, a performing arts academy picked me up there. I ended up being a competition dance coach as well in Cali. And then when we moved to Korea, I endured another what I would call the forced sabbatical, where you're like, okay, I followed you over here.
Yeah.
Okay, now what? And I applied to be like a dance contractor on base, but it took them 9 months to approve everything. So by the time they picked me up, I had like 9 months to teach, but man, did I make the most of that. And, opened a program under the Child Youth Services. There's another S word in there, but CYSS.
CYS. Yes.
Yes, or
Yeah.
CYS or CYSS. So they were
Yeah.
like, I was under their umbrella, which was really nice because they handled the enrollments and like emails, and I just got to go in and teach. And yeah, so I would show up and we had two locations and I worked my booty off though. Like, I mean, I was working many, many hours a week. I did private lessons and then I pushed for us to have a recital early in the year so that there'd be more chances for the kids to get to perform since PCS season. Like, why not? You're on a military base. Let's
Mhm.
tailor it to these families that are here. I also ran a summer program, but for the recital, then they told me, like, oh, I don't know, we can't get costumes in this amount of time. We can't ship costumes from America to the APO, DPO. Like, you can't ship for business, right? That whole thing.
Yeah.
At least that was a thing at the time. I don't want to speak out of turn. It might not be a thing now, but I was like, okay, then, well, there's this huge fabric market in the middle of Seoul. And I gathered a group of parents and we all went and we made 65 tutus together.
So proud of you. Way to go,
Thank you.
girly.
It was great. So, you really can make magic along the way. And then in Hawaii, I taught on base as well, at a studio until I was pregnant with my daughter. I actually taught after I had her. I'd like wear her in and like was trying to help them finish their competition season. So I would come in and do coaching and whatever. Ryan was deployed again. So I was like, whatever, I'll do this. And then once I finished competition season, I stepped back and didn't touch dance again until we moved to Morocco, which actually wasn't that long of a break, where this lovely company named Crescendo Baby Music, they might just be Crescendo Music. I met the owner of that at an embassy party, and she was like, I've heard about you from the embassy staff. Would you be interested in coming to like volunteer your time here? And I was like, of course. So I helped, was their dance director for opening this musical theater program in Rabat for kids, which has, like, to my knowledge, never been done before then. And we put on a whole show. It was such a unique opportunity for me because none of the kids like there were learning English. I obviously don't have very good Darija is their language there, which is like a mix of Arabic and there's probably a better term for that. So, but they speak,
It's okay.
a different language for me. And I speak very little French. I mean, high school French, like I can count and I can tell you like right and left and please and whatever. But the beauty of all of this is to say, like, art is universal. Like, dance and music are global entities that people don't have to speak the same language to understand one another. And
Oh yeah.
I taught them choreography and we had a beautiful time together. And to see these kids flourish on stage. And some of them, it's like their very first time performing ever. And to be witness to that at any moment for me, it's never been about making a performer. It's been about encouraging someone to be on a team and create something beautiful, but for a moment, right? Like you think about it, it's this moment that you prepare for forever and ever and ever. And it goes by so quickly, but that was really truly something special. So yeah, that's like, oh, I was trying to think like, is that all the dance things? For now it is. I teach occasionally. I might pick it up again, but right now like the writing has kind of taken off, and now that I have two kids of my own, I'm really just trying to savor this time that I have with them now.
Yeah.
Dreams can change, right? Like that's a big part too, is just like allowing your
Oh
dreams
yeah.
to shift and evolve as you do.
Well, and then sometimes you'll like revisit or touch. It's the time of life sort of thing. Because I did dance for a long time too. I love dance, but my life has shifted in a different way. I did do musical theater for a bit in college. I did a little costume design. And it's really funny how all of these little things that we pick up as we're going, we are able to then use in different ways um, as military spouses. And they can be really fulfilling, just, I don't know, like we don't have to completely let them go.
No,
I
they
don't.
serve you in other ways.
Yes. So like I'm not teaching ballroom anymore. I did that for a little bit. I am not performing anymore. But my kids are starting to get into stuff like that. And I've gotten the opportunity to make costumes for my kids. So I'm
Mhm.
using my costume design skills. Mostly it's for Halloween costumes. I'm gonna just,
That's so
but
fun.
it's
No, that's where
it's
you
still fun.
begin. And then if there's an opportunity later, there will be, right? Like we want to do recitation nights. Like my husband and I have been
Oh
talking
my
about that
gosh.
we want to like welcome our community of kids and parents in. And we have several that like kids that are working on piano. And I'm like, why shouldn't we just do like we're working on like mitigating screens and all these different things in our lives, like use them
Hmm.
where you need to use them. I don't want to like, this is a zero shame environment, but like I want to make sure those things remain a tool in our arsenal of things, and that way we're continuing to expose our kids to other forms of entertainment, which also means like inviting people into our homes. And like, does someone have a favorite scripture? Like, does someone have a poem that moves them? I want the adults to stand up and do it with the kids. um
Yes,
yeah, like a Little Women living room, you know what I mean? Like that's like my
totally.
dream.
Or like Anne of Green Gables, like when she
So
goes up and like does the Highwayman
oh,
and
you are speaking to my whole soul right now. Anne of Green
oh
Gables is in my book. I quote her like twice.
Oh, really? I love Anne
Yeah.
of Green Gables. I am
Yeah.
obsessed with Anne of Green Gables, and I just felt like Anne my whole life. I was
Oh, same. I'm very
quite
dramatic,
the hot mess.
We're out on the river waiting for, just
I was
the
so
Lady of
like
Sherlock.
that.
Come on. I can do it
Yes,
all
I
over
was
again.
totally like that. I was totally one of those kids. Um, but yeah, but my kids, they're at a school now where they're getting to memorize poetry and do poetry recitals. And
Oh,
I think
good.
poetry is something that we don't do enough of.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, there's so many different ways for people to express themselves. And I love that you have taken all these creative skills you have and you're now turned this into this amazing book. Now, what is the exact category? You said it before when we were talking earlier, the
Yeah,
exact type of book you wrote. It's
it's a
uh
memoir.
but it's
Memoir.
a narrative like
Oh, yeah, like the way that I write is called
yes.
creative nonfiction, which
Okay.
means you're telling a story that is true, but with elements that uplift it in the sense that it always has to be true, right? Like there was 1 million fact checks done on my story, as well as I had to write release forms to everyone that was involved in it, like checked all the journals for making sure like I had everything in a row. But the way that I write really, I build on scene and I pull in dialogue, which like, can you verbatim remember what someone said? Potentially not, but can I be as close as possible to what, yes, right? Like to what was
Yeah.
authentic to what happened. Um, so it is this, it's kind of, I feel like I've heard it quoted as like true stories well told, right? Like being able to, because when you
Yeah.
write your own story, there is a very vast difference between like a journal entry story or like a blog post and like an essay or a chapter or you know in heightening it with this creative nonfiction element. So it's bringing in, like, I have taught writers workshops in the past that wants to like help you move through your essay or the story that you want to tell, but illuminating it with these elements of fiction, like pulling in dialogue, pulling in setting, pulling in your five senses. So like, okay, you take a bite of an apple, but like, what did that sound like, what was that crunch? What was that crisp? What was the tartness on your tongue? Like, I want to know all those things because as your reader, like, that's going to help me walk alongside you in your experience versus I bit an apple.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and
Like that was a
that's
very simple explanation, but
yeah.
hopefully
I feel
helpful.
like well, so here's been my biggest like struggle when I was trying to find good books when we were getting into the military life of other people's experiences or how to help my kids through deployments or all these different things. There was some that I'd find that were high quality, really great. Some that I'd find that were fine. They weren't the best quality, but you could tell there was real passion in there and it
Heart
was like
behind it.
good
Mm-hmm.
and yeah. And then there were some that just felt like money grabs.
Sure. Yeah. I think
And
those definitely exist.
yes, sorry, just bumped. Anyway, um, but yeah, it feels like there's some that are they're money grabs, but then the ones that I go back to are the ones that really have heart, that really can paint that picture, that can really pull you in. And your book reminds me of one that I read recently and really loved in the segments that I you shared. Um, I just love that you can paint that picture, that you can pull people in, and that all of our stories are different, but just like you can share something and I'll find something to relate with, even though my military journey is different than yours, we can still relate to each other because there's common themes.
Yeah. Yes, we're absolutely like woven into the same tapestry together. Like everybody's threads are different in this life. Like we can all say we're part of this like universal military family, right? That's lived these things, but yet, I'll meet someone that like has never had to PCS or just hasn't done it yet or came along later in their spouse's career or they didn't do a deployment or like there's these things that we kind of benchmark as like, oh, these things that happen in military life and you may or may not experience them. So I think that comes into like this compare and despair portion where you're kind of like, if I'm not handling things well, or if I'm not doing this and that. And it's like, no, there's really just no right way through this. The book opens with the children's book reference to Going on a Bear Hunt by Michael Rosenthal, where, he says, like, oh, the tall, wavy grass and the thick, oozy mud, and we can't go over it. We can't go under it. Oh no, we've got to move through it. And that's really like the essence of what I discovered as a military spouse was like there was no one there telling you exactly how you were going to make it to the next day. You just had to move through it and be courageous enough to sit in the discomfort and know that that is part of it. And it will also be part when you get out. Like, I kind of had
Oh,
this
yeah.
magical thought of like, we're facing retirement. Everything's well, sorry, my musical theater is coming up. We're going to like do all these things, but then you realize like life is still going to life. And yes, we've learned a lot and we've endured a lot of things as a family and separately in our marriage. And yet, how do we want to move through this next thing? So I'm always kind of like, how are we moving through it, keeping our eye on what matters most to us? Like, no one can answer that but you. Like those, I once heard it described by Becky Hoy, who's a military spouse, where she was like, I think a lot of my life is like a river, but I pick these stones, and those are the things that don't waver, and the water can move around them, but I'm going to focus on those stones. Like, I'm going to make sure those rocks in my river stay steady. And whatever that is for you, like, you keep fighting for those to stay steady. And, you are immovable on certain things, like how you're going to love or pour into people. Or I've never regretted being kind to someone else or making space, even if someone was going to move or I was going to move. I've never regretted having more connection, like intentional connection with others as we've gone along.
Okay, so wrapping this up a little bit, what are some things, like last things you want to share, and then how can people find your book that are looking for it?
Sure. Yeah. I think my last thing that I've really been trying to be super transparent about for spouses as I talk to them is how this book was finished. I mean, it's one thing to say, like, oh, you became an author, you had this dance career, all these things, they look so sparkly. But it did not come without like really big dips and hardships in our marriage. And it didn't come without a lot of work on my own behalf. It took 7 years to write this book from start to finish. And that because I kept having to pick it up and set it down. I mean, having like a new baby, and then the pandemic happened, and then TDYs, and then a PCS. And like there was just so many moments where um I don't want to say it wasn't the right time, but I felt like I more had to like chip away with a little chisel, like a little sculptor. We were talking about Italy a little bit ago, and like just it made me think of like that, like do do do, like you just had to work on it little bits at a time and gain faith in yourself until you had enough momentum to take the next step. And then the I think the temptation now is to be like, okay, I've done this big thing. I get to be this published author, amazing. But really, the book is not about me anymore. It's now this like offering that I get to give back to the community and see how it works in others' lives. And that is super special to me. So, anyone that wants to pick it up, I shall hold it up for you. This is what it looks like. So pretty. She's so pretty. The artwork was done by a military spouse named Lindsay Wilkins. It's a custom painting that she made for the cover. I mean, it's just gorgeous, right? Like, I really wanted a military spouse to do the cover because it just was important for me to like keep it within our community. And I was just thrilled that she agreed. So, Holding On and Letting Go, it's available on Amazon. And also, if you are like, I don't want to do Amazon, I want to support an indie company, then you can order it from militaryfamilybooks.com. And part of the proceeds go back to military family programming if you order through them. But either way, I would love for you to have your support. And if you read it and you like it, please review it. That's the other thing as an author I'm learning we have to follow up with, just like you on a podcast where you're like, read, review, and you can come follow me. I'm on Instagram the most at lindsay.swo because my last name is sometimes hard to spell. So just lindsay.swo. And I also, if you're a Substack person, I have a Substack and it is called the 11
Ooh,
o'clock number. Because
Okay.
the final, like the moment where the character makes the big realization in a musical is the 11 o'clock number, which is just kind of fits what I try to write about over there. My like little tag is writing about the art of what matters most.
That's so cool. So yeah, I'll have to check that your Substack out.
Please do.
And I love all the little like theater references and like I'm such a yeah, I'm a nerd in that way, so that really speaks to my soul. And I love the transparency about how we have projects that we will start, passion projects, and we will have to set them down, and that's okay. We can pick them up again. And just because we're setting them down doesn't mean it's over and we're never going to get to come back to it. And I love that you persevered and you were able to see that, this will happen when it happens and not give up on your dreams. So that's so cool. And I love how it's kind of a love letter to the military spouse community because I don't feel like we are completely understood the way we always want to be understood outside of the military spouse community. I feel like we really can sometimes be an enigma. And that's part of the reason why I love doing these episodes is to just help kind of demystify what we are as military spouses and how very different, but all the same in some ways we are. And I love that this book is going to be a love letter to that. And um, I actually just had a thought we were talking. I'm going to tell my USO book club and see if we can get it as our book for our book club.
Yeah.
Because
And if
I
you do
think,
that, I was going to say, if you do that, I am doing that for a couple other organizations and I'm like zooming in with them. So if you guys pick it up and then you want to have like an author chat, you've got my email. Like, and anybody
oh,
else that
I'm,
sees this and is interested in something like that, you can hit me up because it is my great delight to come in. I taught different writing workshops throughout my years too. And I have like a set of journal prompts that come with the book or like conversation starters that come um, that I've been presenting in those groups. And it really helps stir conversation. Because again, you share your own story to like help strengthen someone else's. So it would be my great
that'll,
delight.
ooh, that'll be so much fun. Yeah, I'm going to tell my USO book club and see if I can convince them because I think they would really enjoy this. So, thank you so much for doing this, Lindsay. I really enjoyed this conversation and good luck with the book. For everyone listening, all of the links that she was talking about, I'll have Lindsay send them to me and I can put them in the description of the episode so you guys can find them super easy, whether it's buying it through the military page or through Amazon, her Substack, all of those things. We'll have those links so you guys can get a hold of her and follow what she's doing. Super easy. So thanks again and good luck.
Thank you so much for having me.
Just to wrap up today's episode, I wanted to thank all of you for listening and supporting not only Lindsay, but every other military spouse or service member who has come on this show to share what they have with you, whether it be their business or a book or something they're working on. I'm really grateful for the encouragement and support that is in this community. Please continue to like, share, subscribe, click it, and stick it to the algorithm so that we can spread the word of all of these amazing things that are being done in the military community, not only to those in the military community, but to anybody who is interested in what we do and what our lives are like as part of the United States military. And also, if you know of a military spouse or veteran who is interested in being on the podcast and sharing their experiences and what they're working on, please reach out. Let me know. If that's you, please feel free, contact me. My email is in the description below. Additionally, if you have resources that would be helpful for those in the military community, feel free to contact me. I'd love to check out what you have to offer and see if it can bless the lives of those who listen, not only to this podcast, but those who encounter the information in general. So thank you again. Let's remember to be the good that we want to see in the world. And as always, I'm your host, Sam Wolf, and you're listening to Life of a Military Wife.